Hello, everyone, and welcome to the American Family Insurance DreamBank, where we believe in the transformative power of dreams. So my name is Nick. I am a senior dream curator here at the DreamBank. Now, if you've visited us or tuned in virtually before, welcome back. And for those that are joining us for the first time, allow me to tell you just a little bit about DreamBank. So DreamBank is an inspirational community destination and digital experience created by American Family Insurance and dedicated to the pursuit of dreams. Because we believe communities are stronger and the future is brighter when people are actively pursuing their dreams. From our daily event series to immersive signature programs, there's something for every dreamer. Everything that we do is designed to help you celebrate the dream journey, overcome obstacles, and stay motivated. So now this is our Impact for Good series, and today we are visited by Chef Dave Heide. Chef Dave is a classically trained chef from Le Cordon Bleu and a successful 20-year restaurateur who has won multiple accolades from Best Chef Madison to Best Restaurant. He's also known as Madison's most philanthropic chef. After founding Liliana's Restaurant and Charlie's on Main, named after his first two children, Dave wanted to take his experience and talents to tackle two large social issues: food access and food excess. So when his third child, John, was born, so was Little John's Kitchens. Please give a warm DreamBank welcome to Chef Dave Heide.
The roaring sound of silenced applause. It's fantastic. I wanted to say thanks everyone for joining, and we're so happy to see so many faces and people who want to hear kind of about what we're doing. I want to say thank you to DreamBank for having me on board and for letting us kind of talk about what makes us passionate and what makes me get up in the morning. It is definitely a passion project. There's no salary for me. It's just making sure that we can get some people fed. So what I'm going to be talking about today is kind of where the Little John's idea came from, what we're doing right now, what we hope to do in the future, and kind of like why we are doing all those things in the first place. So just a little bit about the history. Yes, the restaurant is named after my child, John, who is now 5 years old. And it did come about because we had the two restaurants named after my other two kiddos. And and then we were like, oh crap, we have a third kid. So now we got to open another restaurant. So there was definitely a like, what are we going to do now? And so where it all came from was about a little over 5 years ago, Sustain Dane contacted me and they said, hey, we're going to be doing this project at Madison College where we're having it free to the public. And we want to showcase grocery store waste. And there's a lot of it going on right now. Would you and maybe another chef want to come and do some cooking? And I was like, sure. And I will tell you guys, honestly, like 5 years ago, I thought grocery excess was going to be a bunch of like rotten vegetables or like a bunch of dry goods or only stale bread. Like that was totally what I was picturing. And I didn't think there would be very much, like, especially because we were going to a good grocery store. I went to Tim Metcalf, who owns Metcalf's, and I said, hey, we want your grocery excess for a couple of days. And I never see bad product on his shelves. So I just figured would get like maybe a grocery bag of produce or something like that for this event. And so the day before the event, we only had 100 people signed up. It was a free event, but you did have to register. They had 100 people signed up. And then I had another chef, Patrick DePula, who owns Sal's Tomato Pies, that was also helping me cook. And we went on the news the night before this event and we were like, hey, we're going to be doing a free event and you get free food there and it'll be fun. And we are going to talk about grocery excess. And then we got a call from the event organizer the morning of, so the next day. And she said, what did you do? And I was like, what do you mean? What did I do? And she's like, what did you do? And I was like, what? And she's like, well, we just sold 700 tickets overnight. And now we've got over 800 people coming to this event. And I was like, oh my God, what did we do? And so I called Patrick, I talked to Madison College and said, hey, like, we don't know if we're going to have enough groceries. I literally only have Metcalf's from their two stores, just bringing a couple days worth of excess. So I don't know if we'll have enough food to feed all these 800 people that we promised would have food for. So Madison College said that donate some of whatever they had in house and not to worry about it. And if I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have worried about it at all. So Tim Metcalf shows up like 2 hours before the event's supposed to start with his Metcalf's truck And he's like, hey man, I've got your groceries here that you need. There's all the excess we have from both our stores for a couple days. And I was like, great. I was like, just if we have some volunteers come out to help unload and I'll be inside. So this volunteer comes in. I only sent one volunteer out with this like push cart, and I sent one volunteer out, and the volunteer came in with a cart completely full with like 12 bags of groceries and was like, here you go. And I was like, awesome. And I was like, just put them right here. And he's like, there's more. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. We'll just go grab another cart worth and bring them on in. And he brought another cart. And I was like, awesome, just put them back here on this table, because they had filled up one table. I was like, put them on this next table. And I was like, is that it? And he's like, no, there's more. So he goes back and forth like 6 or 7 times, cart after cart after cart full of groceries. We end up filling, no joke, like 7-8 foot stainless steel tables completely full with bagged groceries all the way to the top, completely full. All of these tables full of product. And in there are dry goods, there's breads, there's produce, there's protein like ground beef, like so much stuff. And I went out to Tim and I was like, man, like I just wanted 2 days from 2 stores. And he's like, yeah, that's what this is. And I was like, holy crap. So we ended up cooking we had 820 some people show up at the event. Patrick and I did 6 separate dishes. So 6 courses for 800 plus people. So over 5,000 portions of food. And the craziest thing was at the end of the day, you could not tell that we had touched the bags. It still looked completely full. And that was with that much food. And it was a total eye opener for me. And all the questions went through my head that I'm sure are going through your guys' head right now, right? Of, well, what is Tim doing wrong? Like he's messing up somewhere because he shouldn't be throwing away all that product. Or, I'm sure there's the why is there so much waste? And I'm sure the other thing is, because all these were questions that went through my head is, what was it like cooking with garbage? Because that's what I thought it was going to be too. And the crazy thing you have to remember is that grocery store excess is very different from restaurant or home excess. If you guys buy something from a grocery store, right? Or if I buy something from my wholesaler and I'm not willing to cut it up and serve it, or if you don't want to cook it at home, it's because it's bad, right? Like I would never want you to go through my dumpster at Liliana's and try and find a meal. Like if I'm throwing it out, it means I can't repurpose it, right? I can't make a soup out of it. I can't make a stock out of it. I can't freeze it. Like that product should not be used anymore to give a quality, healthy meal. But there's the disconnect. That's the thing that's so different between grocery stores and restaurants, okay? A grocery store, they're selling you a product that still has to be good in your fridge at home for another 7 days. Right? How many of you guys would be super ticked off if you had gone, especially to a high-end grocery store, right? And you got home and you're drinking your milk or you're pouring milk on your cereal and you look and it says sell by date in 2 days. Well, especially if you're going to a high-end grocery store like Metcalfe's, I'm just going to tell you, you'd be pissed, right? Like you'd be upset. But the crazy thing is that's just a sell by date. There is only one sell-by date that's actually required by the USDA and from the government, and that's baby formula. Every other sell-by date is a manufacturer recommendation, okay? So in the sell-by date means that you still have 7 days to use that product and have it still be at the same level of quality that it was when it left the manufacturer, okay? So that's what a sell-by date is, okay? Now, if you're a manufacturer and you know that a grocery store or a retailer can't sell your product after a sell-by date, do you think you're going to try and have that date be as far out into the future? Or do you think you're going to try and have that be as short as possible? There's an expiration date on bottled water. How many of you guys think your bottled water goes bad after that sell-by date? Nope. What about juice, soda, chips, like any dry good? How many of you guys would look at a sell-by date, even if it was a month gone, on a can of soda and be like, oh, I shouldn't drink this? No, right? Like I guarantee you in your life, you have drunk a can of soda that was a year past its sell-by date and you didn't even know, right? A lot of it is manufacturer controlled sell-by dates to try and get retailers to throw out that product and buy in new product. So as we've been working with Little John's, one of the things we've noticed, even working with cheesemakers, there'll be things like a medium cheddar, and we will get a pallet of medium cheddar because the medium cheddar has aged longer and now it's maybe a little bit sharper, right? So there's nothing wrong with the cheese. There's nothing bad about it whatsoever, but the consistency is just a little bit different, right? So one of the things you have to remember is when you're thinking about sell-by dates, the the grocer has to make sure that it's still good in your fridge for another week, right? So the same thing happens with produce. They're not getting rid of bad produce at Metcalfe's. They're getting rid of produce that won't be perfect a week from now in your fridge, right? So, and even things like proteins, like Metcalfe's in particular is incredible. So at all Metcalfe stores, both in, and I promise this isn't just an ad for Metcalfe's. There are other grocery stores that do this too, but Metcalfe's has been with us since day one. But at Metcalfe's, I didn't know this until we started working with them, and we started getting literally hundreds of pounds of ground beef a week. Metcalfe's grinds their ground beef in-house, and then from when it's ground until they get rid of it is only 24 hours. After 24 hours, they get rid of or throw away any ground beef done in-house. And that's because of two things. One, they want it to last for 7 days in someone's fridge. So if you pick it up, they want it to still be good in your fridge, but also they don't use gas and they don't use bleach in any of their food. And most of what you guys get at other grocery stores has been bleached and gassed, so it stays looking pink. Have you ever opened up hamburger, like cracked it open in the middle and seen it all gray or brown in the middle, but totally pink and bright on the outside? That's because there's a bleach solution that they put on the outside to help kill bacteria and to prevent oxidation, but it can't get and penetrate all the way through the meat. And so the inside is what the whole thing should be looking like if it wasn't chemicaled, right? So the other thing about produce that I didn't realize is that the stuff we're getting from Little John's and Excess is actually better quality product than I'm able to get at Liliana's, which is nuts. And the reason is because when we get produce, we get seconds, right? If we get green peppers, we get the ones that we're just chopping them up into a soup. We don't care. We're buying 50 pounds at a time. They're like a little disfigured. They're like maybe a little bit smaller, and they're definitely cheaper per pound than what you get at a grocery store, but they aren't the like beautiful ones. The stuff that Metcalfe's gets is A grade produce. It's the number one grade produce. Those big, beautiful round bell peppers, the like perfect apples with no marks or anything on them. And so what happens and why there's so much excess, because the kind of counter to, well, why is there such a bad problem? Metcalfe's must just be over ordering, is that it's all on you guys, right? It's all on the consumer, right? And here's why. Everybody does it. So I don't want any judgment. And I understand why you have your cameras off for a lot of you, because you don't want to be judged on this next one. But how many of you guys do this, right? You go to a grocery store and you, hey, Brad, how's it going? You go to a grocery store and you want raspberries, right? So you grab raspberries. How many of you guys just grab the first raspberry container that you see? No, none of you do. And it's okay. You all pick up the container of raspberries and you look at the bottom of that weird like diaper thing that's on the bottom of the raspberries. And if there's even one little like red dot, you're like, no, these raspberries aren't for me. I'm putting these down. Some other sucker can get this like one red dot on a diaper of raspberries, right? But we all do it. Every single one of us do the same thing, right? When you want apples, how many of you guys just grab the first 6 apples off? No, right? Like we pick up each individual apple, we turn it all around, we look for any spots, dents, soft spots, we feel every bit of it, we make it turn its head and cough. Like we do every single thing we can to that apple to like test it and make sure it's perfect, right? And then we put it in our bag. Well, everybody does that, and grocery stores know that everybody does that. So they'll go through and they'll do what's called pre-picking. So they'll go through and they'll find even a tiny dot, a little wrinkle on the side, like anything that could be anything but perfection, and they'll pull that product. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, okay, so you work with imperfect or ugly produce. And I'm like, no, because the other thing that happens is this. When a grocery store buys something like green peppers, right, especially a big grocery store, they're not buying 1 case of green peppers, right? They're buying like 10 cases of green peppers at a time, if not more, right? And there's a reason why those shelves are always fully stocked, because they've got a whole stock room full of that product that they want out as soon as possible, okay? So what happens is they'll know that they've got 10 cases of brand new green peppers that just came in. And out on the shelf is that fully stocked pyramid of green peppers. Well, as soon as that fully stocked shelf of green peppers is even a third of the way depleted, if they put out those brand new green peppers next to the green peppers that have been there for 2 or 3 days, nobody will buy those 2 to 3 old day peppers. They're going to pick to those brand new, shiniest looking peppers. So the grocery stores will actually pull all of that product off of the shelf that's perfectly fine, that 10 seconds earlier you would have gone up and bought and said, holy crap, this is the most beautiful green pepper I've ever seen in my life. They pull those green peppers and put out the new ones. Because at the end of the day, if they wait for you to buy the older product, now those 7 cases of green peppers are going bad in their cooler faster. And now one of the things about produce in particular is that produce, as it deteriorates, puts off methane gas, right? It puts off a gas, and that gas actually ages all the other product around it. So it's an exponential graph. The longer it's sitting, because it's a dead produce, you pulled it off the vine, the longer it stays sitting, the more gas it's putting out exponentially, right? So you've heard that saying, one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. That's literally true. One bad apple spoils the whole bunch because of the gas that's released as it decays. So grocery stores intentionally pull, even though it's perfectly good, will pull that little bit older product off the shelf so that that gas doesn't make it go bad, right? So that's one thing is that. And then the other thing is, why are they buying so much produce, right? Like you'll go out and you'll see like a mound of Honeycrisp apples, right? Now, the thing is this, I want you to understand another thing about how we purchase. As consumers, we purchase in abundance, right? So I want you to think about this. Picture, we'll stay with apples, right? Let's say you are super duper in the mood for a Honeycrisp apple. In fact, you go to the store because you want some Honeycrisp apples, right? You show up and you look, and in the bin where Honeycrisp apples are supposed to be, there's 6 apples. And that's it. There's only 6 of them sitting there. You can see the black like felt or whatever on the bottom of where the apples usually are. And it looks really picked through. I'm just going to tell you, whether you think so or not, even if you went to the store for a Honeycrisp apple, the most amount of apple you're going to buy is 1 apple. And odds are you'll probably skip it, maybe pick a different apple variety, or maybe just say, I'll come back to the store later this week to pick up my apples. Now, if you instead went to that same store and what you walked in was a display with like 120 Honeycrisp apples perfectly polished in a big old pyramid with a bunch of abundance, even if you weren't going to the store for Honeycrisp apples, you might say like, wow, look at those Honeycrisp apples. They look fantastic. I'll take like 5, right? So we buy on abundance and we buy when things are available. And that's just how we purchase as consumers. So grocers know that if they don't have fully stocked everything, then you just won't buy it. And then their waste goes up even more. So we actually overbuy when there's a lot. I mean, that's like the whole theory behind Costco, right? Like, oh my God, there's 12 million rolls of toilet paper. I can barely fit it in my minivan. This is so great. Even if it took you 12 years to go through that much toilet paper, you're still going to. So sorry about the Apple thing. So the kind of like main focus for us is to try and shift the perspective away from like that grocery excess is bad and let people really realize how beautiful a lot of that produce is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a little video. And instead of tapping into all of the wonderful tech that DreamBank would let me do, I am going to do it old school and just hold my camera up to the, hold my phone up to the camera. And what I'm going to show you guys, this is 1 day of grocery excess from just one grocery store. Okay, so everyone who I can't see your screens on, just make sure you're looking at your phone for this one. This one doesn't work as good for podcasts because it's a visual. So this is 1 day of grocery excess from one store. Here we go. Right? And so one of the things about that I want you guys to see is it's not to put shame on the grocery store, but to look at the things that are in there. There was literally an entire cart full of eggs, right? There were 2 carts entirely full of the most beautiful produce. Right now, for all the produce and stuff that we're bringing into Little John's, only about 2% of it do we end up putting into compost, right? A majority of the food that we're bringing in is perfectly good, no problem whatsoever. I've had people ask, well, hey, what about those raspberries? Why don't they just like go through the raspberries, pick them, because raspberries are expensive. Why doesn't a grocery store go through, pick them, put them in a new container and still sell them? Or why don't they discount them down? Well, there's 2 problems with that, okay? Number one is right now, just trying to find staff is almost impossible, right? And on top of that, even if you could find staff, you're looking at $20 an hour. You know, how long does it take to sort through raspberries, pick out the good ones, put them back into a container? And then you're still dealing with that main problem we talked about earlier, which is the waste and excess that's going to happen. The new flats of raspberries are coming in right behind it. And those ones you just meticulously poured over to try and make sure they were all perfect are all going to be worse than the new ones that are coming in the door. So the other problem is, well, why don't we discount? So I'm going to give you an example that actually happened with Metcalf's not too long ago, because we got a whole bunch of ribeye steaks. And I was like, hey, guys, why don't you do something else with them than donate them? Because these are beautiful ribeye steaks. Like, they are so good. Well, it was 4th of July, and they were running a loss leader. So if you guys don't know what a loss leader is when they put something at an end cap, or they make a big ad about something where they make $0 in profit off of it, but it drives you in. Like, a good example would be turkey on Thanksgiving. Okay. Do you think any grocery store can even buy turkey for 39 cents a pound? No. Like, it costs like $1.10 a pound for turkey, but grocery stores will buy semi-trailers full, because they know wherever you buy your turkey, you're also buying your sweet potatoes, your green beans, every other ingredient you're going to pick up in one-stop shop, right? So that's why you'll see those huge deals, big page ads during Thanksgiving of like 29 cent a pound turkeys, one per person. It's because they're losing their pants on, right? So they were doing a special on ribeye steaks for 4th of July weekend, because it was supposed to be beautiful last year. And the special was like $6.99 a pound for Black Angus choice ribeye, which is like crazy cheap, right? But guess what happened? It rained on 4th of July. So they had all of this stuff that they had ordered. They had put out all the press that they were going to have it. They had to pre-order a lot of these steaks to get them all set and ready for their butchery department to get them all processed. And then it rained. And so they were stuck with literally an entire cooler full of these perfectly cut ribeye steaks. Now, if you're a business person, the first question you might ask, which is the one I asked them, was, well, why don't you just put them on even cheaper? Put them on for like $3 and just have it be like a fire sale on ribeyes, and, or, you know, sell them to your staff. And the feedback I got was something I hadn't even thought of, which is this: if they put something like a ribeye, which is already cheap at $6.99, and they were to make it even cheaper, what's going to happen to their entire meat department? No one's going to buy anything, right? How many of you guys, if you were in the mood for steak, would buy something like a chuck eye if you get ribeye for cheaper? You're not. Who would even buy burgers for ground beef when the ground beef is just as expensive as a ribeye steak? It meant that their entire other meat department would go to crap over a product that they were already planning on losing money on, right? So for them, it's actually cheaper to donate that product than it is to actually try and sell it. And the same thing happens with that unused produce, right? If they put produce out at a discount, people are going to skip going to where all their fresh, beautiful stuff that they're paying a premium for, and they're going to go buy everything at a discount. And now that premium stuff they put out is going to start to go bad on them faster. So a lot of it comes down to a consumer. So that's a little bit about the grocery excess side. And I want to touch on a couple more things about why we started doing it. So for those of you that don't know what Little John's is, actually, that was a really good question. That restaurants are fearful to donate leftovers because of food poisoning, et cetera. There's actually and we'll go over questions more at the end, but that's a really important one. There's actually a Good Samaritan Act that was passed under Bill Clinton. And the Good Samaritan Act says that if you do something with the intention of doing good, you can't be held liable for anything that comes from that afterwards. So an example would be if I saw Brad choking and I went up and I gave him the Heimlich maneuver and I tried to save his life and I broke one of his ribs, and one of those ribs even punctured his lung and killed him, I can't be held liable because I was doing it within good faith and good act to try and help save his life. So the same thing holds true with all the food and food excess. Is that if you're donating food with the intention of helping, you can't be held liable for anything that comes in. Now, the caveat to that is, like, let's go back to Brad. If I knew Brad had a peanut allergy and I gave him a free cookie and I snuck a peanut in it, that doesn't work. Like, I'm just being mean to kill Brad. That doesn't count. Sorry, Brad. So that's where the Good Samaritan Law doesn't pass. Now, I will tell you the difference between Little John's and a soup kitchen is that Little John's isn't touching any pre-processed food. Once you process food, you have 7 days to use it, or you can have like naturally occurring bacteria that can happen. Like, let's say it was on a cutting board or a knife and you touch an onion. Even though technically that onion wouldn't kill you if you ate it, it's possible there could have been cross-contamination. It's possible that Quick Trip donates a lot of their leftover food to soup kitchens, food pantries, shelters. But I don't know, was that cooled down at an appropriate time? Was it heated at an appropriate time? Was it kept at the right temperature? I don't know any of those things. And so we don't touch any of that product. We leave that in its current pathway. So to date right now, we've rescued over 400 tons of food from just 3 grocery stores, which is insane. And with that amount of food that we have rescued, we also are the last person in the chain. So all of the soup kitchens who used to get their food still get them. All the food pantries still get their product. All of those places still get all the product they used to. We don't touch any of it. That's just the raw produce, raw protein, raw product, bread. Anything that's a whole ingredient is the only thing we take. And most stores weren't able, most pantries and food access weren't able to take any of that product anyway. So we're not impacting anyone else in a negative way, which is, I think, another important thing. So what we're doing now, so just to tell you where we are currently and what we want to do in the future, that's what I want to talk about now. So what we're doing currently, so we are making and producing 10,000 meals a week. And of that, we are doing all the evening meals on wheels. We're doing all of the meals for Lighthouse Christian Schools and St. Maria Goretti, 2 private schools. We're doing meals for Red Caboose. We're doing, right now, there are over 140 people experiencing homelessness in hotels that the county is putting up. We're providing breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks and drinks for all of them. We're also providing food out to assisted living facilities and senior housing. And then we're also, we're doing a ton. So right now our food is going everywhere. We had 2 choices for how we wanted to choose our programming. We could either focus on what would generate revenue to help us out, or what would make the biggest impact in the community. And we picked community instead of what would generate revenue for us first. What would generate revenue is if we went to, let's say, a senior living home or a senior assisted living facility where they already have a budget of $10 a meal, and we were to offer our catering services for $10 a meal, that would be a really cash sustaining effort that we'd be doing. But instead, what we did is we went to the schools who are really struggling right now, just trying to find staff, trying to find product. There are huge shortages in the pipeline for food, and to say like, hey man, they really need us right now. And now we're getting basically break even on a majority of those contracts to try and help them out. So right now we're doing contract work. We're doing all of our cooking out of an old event space in Verona at 411 Prairie Heights Drive. If any of you guys want to help volunteer, we're always looking for good volunteers there. And right now that's where we're doing all of our meal production, and we're doing 10,000 meals a week, which is insane, by the way. Liliana's does an average of maybe 1,000 to 1,500 meals a week. So almost a 10x multiplier, and it's almost the same size kitchen, you guys. So it is insane the level of work that my kitchen is doing, and we're super proud of them. All of our staff, we're also delivering a lot of that product too. So it's not just like we're, just cooking the food. So that's what we're doing now. Our new space that we're fundraising for, so we've raised 3.5 million out of the 10 that we need to finalize our space. And the new space that we're going to be putting together is going to be able to put out, get this, 240,000 meals a week if we needed to, which is insane, you guys. That's over 1 million meals a month, right? So over 1 million meals a month, we'll be able to put out of this one space. We'll be able to help get fresh food out to our schools, even try and get some conversations going with maybe MMSD, get real, healthy, nutritious food. How many of you guys have seen the food our kids are eating? Yeah. How many of you guys are like, man, I'm proud of that food? How many of you guys would even want to eat that food? I don't. Teachers don't. I think that's a great sign. If the teachers don't want to eat the food that we're providing, maybe there's a problem with the food we're providing, right? So, and then how are we as adults keep judging our kids for not finishing their food when we would want to touch that crap with a 10-foot pole? I think that's a really one of our big goals is that production. So our new space that we're putting out, 240,000 meals, which is super cool, a week. And in our new facility, we're actually going to have multiple different components of our new building. So one part is we'll have a pay what you can restaurant, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. We're going to have a veteran training kitchen. So we're going to train military veterans how to cook. We pay them for 6 months. We pay them $15 an hour, and we teach them how to cook. And when they're done, we're going to guarantee them full ride education for an associate's degree at Madison College in their culinary program. Or if they don't want to continue down a culinary path for education, we'll help get them placed at wherever they want to, right? So we'll help get them into a fine dining restaurant, a diner, or maybe a corporate kind of kitchen if they're interested in that. So veterans are our number one pick. But we also are going to be working with people who've been recently incarcerated, at-risk youth, anyone who basically has a barrier to employment, people maybe who have had addiction problems in the past. Basically, if you're having trouble finding work, we will give you a job set that literally you could get a job for in a week after graduating, because there is not a kitchen in Madison that's not looking for help. So being able to help people find a job that fits a passion that they have as well. One of the other reasons we work with military veterans as our goal, or as our key group, is that if you think about it, traditional kitchen setup, guys, was actually founded by a military veteran. His name is Escoffier. He's the founder of all of our kitchen brigade system that we have. It was all founded by a military thing. And it's the same, like, you got executive chef, sous chef, line cook, prep cook. It's the same kind of thing in the military. You've got your different kind of lines of administration. So it's a good fit for both. And it's both a like hot and cold environment. So then we have the veteran training kitchen. Then we have our big commissary kitchen. That's where we'll be able to put out all of those big meals. We have a community space there. So we've actually made ourselves a polling location, which is pretty cool. So between 2016 and 2020, our voting district, which is when we took over in 2020, our voting district had a 20% increase in voter turnout, which is pretty cool. So using that to help out in the community. And then we also we're working with Chef Evan Daniels. He was a chef who started Willow Creek Butchery. He also worked under Odessa Piper at Latois. And he owns Cadre downtown, which if you haven't been to, is an awesome restaurant. You should totally support it. He's helping us put in a meat processing space there as well. So those are all the different kind of wheels. And I can go into all of that, but it would take another 45 minutes. So I'm trying to keep it abbreviated. If any of you guys have other interests, feel free to shoot us an email and our team will get back to you. And we're doing tours, of course, too, if any of you guys want to see what the space is going to look like. We're doing tours as well. So basically, we've got that new space we're fundraising for. That's where the future is going to be, right? But the last thing I want to chat with you guys about, and I want to be respectful of time. So I'm just going to spend 6 minutes talking about this last part. And this is what drives me to do what I do. I get a lot of people who are like, why do you do what you do in the community? Or why do you do this? Or why do you do that? And I'm going to share that with you guys. And then we'll open it up to some Q&A if you guys have questions. So I want to tell you guys this. So I started cooking and I became a chef because my core thing, the thing that makes me happy, is making people happy. I love making people happy. I love that with cooking, I can do it on a mass scale, right? I can make one dish in a kitchen and I can put it out to 120 people and I can have a physical impact on their happiness for that moment in time. And that's one of the things I think it's beautiful, right? But although I love the chopping part, it's really watching people be happy. That's why I'm passionate about cooking, right? And for me, food is always an expression of love, right? Think about when you've got your best friend, especially I think a lot of people can relate with COVID, right? Like you have your best friend coming over, you haven't seen him in 2 years. What are you going to cook for him? Are you going to cook a box of Kraft Easy Mac? I doubt it. Like, even if you're going to do mac and cheese, right? You're going to get out the Velveeta, you're going to get out the real shells box. You're going to put it in the oven for a little bit. Like, you're going to fancy up that mac and cheese, right? Because it isn't love to just give someone a microwave box of crap. But I want you to think about, what do we serve our people who are most insecure, right? What do we feed people who are experiencing homelessness? What do we feed people who are food insecure? What food do we have accessible for that single mom and 3 kids barely struggling to make her rent payment? What is the food that we say is accessible, and what do we want to give them? What is it? It's carbohydrates, it's processed food, and it's stuff that we don't want to eat. And there's this culture we have of one side of the line feeding the other side of the line. Think about if you have ever volunteered time at a soup kitchen, right? You've got the people that have on one side, and you've got the people who have not on the other, with a very delineated line of you shall not pass, right? And even when people eat with others, there's usually groups of volunteers sitting together, and then there are groups of people who don't have sitting together. And one of the things we wanted to end, we wanted to say everyone should be able to sit and order at the same table, regardless of means. Everyone should be able to order food, regardless of means. Everyone should have access to fresh, healthy ingredients, regardless of means. But in order to say regardless of means, this is where the pay what you can restaurant is so important. If I just had a pay what you can restaurant and the only goal was to feed people who are just in need, or like that single mom and 3 kids, if that was my only goal, now I'm just a soup kitchen with a fancy front, right? My whole goal was I wanted to have it so that someone could walk through a line and order, and you wouldn't know, no matter what, if you were just in the building or if you were serving or whatever, you wouldn't know if that person was a high-end attorney. You wouldn't know if that person was a single mom with 3 kids. You wouldn't know if that person was experiencing homelessness. Everyone could order at the same line with the same kiosk and be treated just the same. Because there's also this big issue that happens with food insecurity where we feel ashamed when we can't provide, especially when we can't provide for our families, right? We're allowed to be in shame for ourselves and not worry about it, right? Like we can eat. I mean, I lived my college years, man, I literally just ate ramen. I mean, that was like, seriously, like 50% of this gut right here is from ramen and nachos when I was in college. That's a majority of it. So we're allowed to do that for us, but there's this line that happens when it's for our family and for our kids that we don't want to have them experience those things. And so, so for me, backing up a little bit, because happiness is the most important thing to me, I have come to this realization over years of like helping in the community and cooking for people that true happiness, not just like I'm happy today because I watched a movie or because I got to see a good friend, but real, true core happiness comes from just 3 things. It comes from access to food, access to shelter, and access to mental health. And with those 3 things, you can have happiness. And I know some people out there will argue with me and say that there are other things that make them happy besides those 3 things. But here's what I will tell you. If you knew for sure, no matter what happened to you at your job, no matter what happened anywhere, that you would have a safe, not just a shelter, but a safe shelter, you would have guaranteed food for you and your family that was healthful, nutritious, and helped your family out, and you knew that you had community and support and mental health help, I promise you, you could find happiness. And to prove that as an example, think about those pictures on National Geographic of some tribe in the middle of nowhere that hasn't been exposed to anyone, but they do have access to fresh running water and food. They've got a shelter within their community, and they've got a tribal group of support. And guess what you see on every one of those pictures? A big ass smile on everybody, right? Like they're always happy. And not always, not to say there isn't hardship within happiness, right? But overall, in those pictures, you'll see happiness. Now, I want you to think about this. I want to think what would happen if you set up a camera in the middle of Manhattan, one of the richest places in the United States, and you set up a camera on a sidewalk and watch people walking by. Do you think even in an hour, you'd be able to find one person grinning ear to ear? I haven't seen it. I've been to New York. Man, especially in New York, man, I don't think I saw one damn smile the whole time I was there, right? So, except for from tourists. So for me, true happiness really does come from just having our basic needs guaranteed and secured. And that's one of the things that's so important for me. The reason I chose Little John's first was that without food, you can't survive, right? Whether or not you have shelter or mental health, if you can't feed your family and your children, it doesn't matter, right? So here's my one last little kind of food for thought thing, and then we'll open up Q&A. I truly believe that one of the biggest problems we have with our society right now, and you're going to all disagree with me, but that's okay, is that everybody thinks that they're good, right? I'm guessing a majority of people on this phone call would consider themselves good, and I'm not saying that you're bad for that, right? But the problem is once we think we're good, we stop trying to be better. And I'll use me as a perfect example, right? I'm a chef. Nick was so great to read off all of my accolades. You know, I've worked at Michelin-starred restaurants. I am a good chef, right? I can say that with confidence. I've earned the ability to have that confidence. But when I first graduated from culinary school, I was not a great chef yet, but I spent every moment I could trying to be a better chef, right? I would look at perfect food photography. I would like stage at other restaurants, which means like working for free. I would spend limitless hours on the internet just trying to find out how to be a better chef. And today, how much time do you think I spend working on being a better chef? I don't know, man, maybe like 30 minutes a week of like looking at some cool recipes or something like that. Am I a better chef today than I was back then? Oh, hell yeah, like 100%. I would kick old me's butt in a cooking competition, right? But am I actively trying to be a better cook today? No. And I would say the same thing about doing good, right? If we wake up every morning and we look at ourselves in the mirror and we say, man, I am good. Like I'm a good person. I'm a good human. Done, right? Are we actively pushing ourselves to go and do something better, right? And I'm not saying that anyone on this call isn't doing enough. I don't want you to hear that. What I want you to hear when I'm saying that is to say, like, what if we challenged ourselves, and even just once a week, not even every day, what if just once a week we challenged ourselves to say, could I do one more thing for someone else today, right? So think about this, okay? What if, there's a big what if, but what if just one day a week, everyone just in the city of Madison went out of their houses and just helped out in the community for 2 hours? That's it, just 2 hours, one day a week, right? This wouldn't just be a cool city. This would be the most beautiful city in the entire world, right? So we have the capacity to make a difference and to make a change. But one of the problems is we all feel, and it's not just you guys, I definitely have felt like this before. My wife has felt like this. My kids absolutely feel like this, where no matter what we do, we feel like we can't make a difference and we can't make a change, right? But the problem I will push on is that when we feel like we're doing the best we can and we stop trying to make an active difference to do something better, then everyone as a whole kind of has the impact of perpetuating that feeling, right? And I'll give you an example, right? If you look at, let's say my dad's generation. So my dad went to school in the 60s to college, right? If you were to ask anyone his age in college at that time, at that university, any 20-year-old at that college, where do you see the United States or the world in 50 years? I promise you, at least 85% of the people that were there would have been like, oh my God, like we have computers now. Like we're going to be able to communicate across the world. We're going to be able to fix these food systems that are broken. We'll be able to like change the world. You would have had this optimistic outlook on where the future was going to be, right? We're going to the moon, you know, we're going to have colonies on Mars. Like the amount of optimism you would have heard from them would have been incredible. But I will pay anyone on this call $100 if you can go downtown to our university today and find one kid where if you said, hey, where do you see the world in 50 years? That's going to be like, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. Everything is coming up, Millhouse. It's all good, right? Like the odds of you finding that person would be almost none. But here's where it's important, right? And here's where I want to push. Here's why I do what I do in the community. It's so that hopefully people can see me doing it and saying like, maybe I could do it too, right? I want you to think about this, okay? When you talk about micro impact versus macro impact, and that's my whole point for Little John's, is can we take micro actions and turn them into macro actions, okay? So think about this. You're sitting at your desk at work, okay? And you've got a can of soda in front of you. You finish your soda, and behind you, one of your office mates says, hey man, we got to go to that meeting. And you're like, okay, well, you don't want to leave the can out on your desk. Underneath your desk is that little trash can. And then the recycling bin, though, is up a floor and at the end of the hallway in that big blue bin, right? Now, you might tell yourself, I recycle all the time. It's just one can. It doesn't make a difference. And you just throw it in your garbage can underneath your desk, right? Now, that doesn't seem like a big impact. And is it a big impact, that one can? No, like you will not save the world by putting that one can in the recycling bin. You won't, right? Like it has literally zero impact. Our landfills fill up with so much garbage that makes zero impact. So that is correct. But here's the problem. We all have that mentality that one can doesn't make a difference, right? So think again about that city of Madison population thing, right? 250,000 people in the city of Madison. What if once a week, every single person had that thought go through their head that it's just one can and they throw that into the dumpster, right? Well, no, you're right. That one person didn't have an impact. But if the thought process of everybody is that one can doesn't make a difference, well, now you're at 250,000 cans in a landfill a week. You're at 1 million cans in a landfill a month. You're at 12 million cans ending up in a landfill every single year, just in the city of Madison. And that is a tiny city in the big scope of things. So that's my point, right? That by all of us thinking that our little micro actions don't have an impact, we're actually self-perpetuating that and making it true. When we stop trying to make our little differences here and there in the community, and all of us think that can't change anything, that's something that I'm trying to help fix, to try and get people to say like, hey, maybe if I could just buy this food from Little John's, maybe I could help out a veteran. Maybe I could help feed someone who's insecure. Maybe I could help do this little thing. If you can get 250,000 people in Madison doing it, what kind of an impact or a change could we do? So that's my spiel, y'all. So if you guys have any questions or anything, I'll let Nick, field, or if you guys want to do the little hand raisey thing on the reactions part of your Zoom link. If you have any questions, I'm definitely open to answer whatever you guys would like.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to use the chat too. If you want to drop a question in there, we can definitely read it out. I know there may have been some earlier in the event that, we can definitely field now as well. Or yeah, if you want to come off mute or raise your hand, however you want to do it. I did see one earlier in the chat. Somebody was asking if you partnered with Boys and Girls Club.
Yes, so we have worked with Michael Johnson and the Boys and Girls Club. Right now, one of the issues we're at is that we are at full capacity for our tiny little kitchen. And so our ability to take on more contracts is very limited right now. Once we get into our new space, we're hoping to work. We've been working with Boys and Girls Club. We've been doing meal plans with them for their families throughout the pandemic. We did a lot with Reach Dane. So we've definitely been working with a lot of organizations, but unfortunately, until we get our new space built, we're kind of at a big capacity. You can imagine, guys, 10,000 meals going out a week is no small feat. It is a huge amount of food production. And especially when you think about who we're feeding, it's a multiple range of people, kids, adults, seniors. So it's not like we can just put out one meal for everybody. Everything is kind of custom with taking care of allergies and gluten and nut allergies and all that. So it's been a lot.
So now I see Jeanette has her hand up. So if you want to go ahead and come off mute and ask a question.
I just want to say you did an excellent job with explaining about the food insecurity, because I worked at the grocery store. I've also was on board of directors at CAC, where we had the food pantry network for Dane County. And people do exactly what you said. They look at that, they don't want it. They don't want to buy it when it's perfectly still good to use, except for if you was going to buy it today. Some things you need to buy it today and use it today, or you buy stuff and then you don't get to it, so you waste it anyway. But we need to buy stuff with the purpose of, that we're going to use it within the time frame that is still good to get to use. And I agree with not donating stuff that you wouldn't feed yourself to other people. I've experienced that at the I guess y'all call them soup kitchens. I don't call them. So that's my comment.
Well, thank you. And I think, one of the things that's important, kind of a differentiator between us and other people, I also want to let you guys know, whenever we say that we're doing things differently, it is not to take away from the amazing work that a lot of our community partners are doing. So like soup kitchens and food pantries do incredible, amazing work, like absolutely incredible work. We don't mean to take away from any of it, but what we are saying is, if something has been done for 100 years and we still have the problems that we have within our systems, maybe there's something else that we can do on top of what they're already doing to help end some of the problems with food insecurity, making food more accessible, and the biggest gap that most of those agencies have is they don't have a way to produce food. So basically what our commissary kitchen is we're taking we're kind of taking the efficiencies you get in a for-profit world and we're applying them into that nonprofit sector of think about like Culver's, right? You don't picture they're like hand forming every bun in the back of each Culver's, right? And then putting it into a proofer and baking it and slicing it to order. That would be a $10 burger guaranteed if that's what they're having to do in each one. So what we're really trying to do with Little John's is take those efficiencies you'd get in those big scale commissary kitchens and apply them into the nonprofit network to kind of help people of all parts. So any other questions, you guys? I got answers. All I got to do is ask.
I am seeing some general love coming through the chat. People are really just appreciative of what you're doing. Siobhan, said that she helped set up some fundraisers for you, and that your insights, were very inspirational. So I do have a question for you, Dave, and we kind of asked this sort of towards the end of our events of most of our speakers. With DreamBank, we're obviously here to help inspire people, to help them remove maybe perceived barriers in their dream pursuit. And those dreams can look like all different things. We have fitness events, business events, arts and crafting, things like that. So dreams are very varied. So I'm curious if you have a piece of advice for someone who is in the middle of their dream pursuit, maybe even unrelated to what you're doing, but just, what kind of advice would you give them, as far as maybe staying motivated, staying the course, getting through obstacles, things like that?
For sure. That's a great question. And I guess I would say two things. One, be prepared for every single person that you show your dream to doubt your dream, because if it's a dream, it means it hasn't been done yet, right? And so you're going to run into tons of people who are going to challenge what your dream is. And I will tell you, the most important thing is hear them and listen to them every time they have a challenge, because if that person is brave enough and confident enough to bring that challenge up to you, everyone else is thinking that same challenge. So if you view it as a challenge, then take that opportunity to grow your dream and make your dream better, to make it so that no one could even feel that that is a challenge anymore. So number one would be welcome good feedback, and welcome feedback from other people. Sometimes when we're passionate about something, and I know anyone who's on a DreamBank thing can 100% relate to this, when we're passionate and excited about something, everybody else is wrong. Like, it just happens, right? Like, we have our vision, we know what we're going to do, and like, all y'all are wrong. Like, I already know how it's all going to work and it's going to be perfect. And I will tell you, I also feel that way all the time. But the important thing is that you have to remember that you don't know it all. And there's someone else out there who might know something even better. Like, there may be someone who, you may be great at like the food production or seeing the vision, but maybe there's someone out there who's incredible at culture and systems, right? That can help in places that you didn't even know you needed help at. And all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, like, this is going to change the whole direction of what I was hoping to do. Like, I would say the other big part of a dream is remember that there are a ton of dreamers out there, and on your own, there's only so much you're going to be able to accomplish. Uniting with another dreamer who has a similar focus and champion that they want to do is the best way to get your dream to actually come to fruition, right? Using the joint power of people and using your community, not using your community, but working with your community and tying your community in and being passionate about your project is the only way that dreams can really get fulfilled. I will follow it up with one of the stories that Tim Metcalf told me, which is my favorite story now, is that when Tom, his dad, was thinking about the succession plan for Metcalf's, he was like, what are we going to do? There are over 58 people in the Metcalf's group and family that were either interested or wanted to be a part of the succession plan for what happened when Tom left or passed or whatever. So they went to this big conference where all of them went. It was in Ohio, and everyone had to take a test. And everyone took a test. And after the test was over, they read off a whole bunch of names. And the first names were like, you guys go in this corner. You guys are the doers. So you guys are the people where like you are boots on the ground, you get shit done. Like, you guys are the action people. And then there was another group of people, and they were like, you guys are the list makers. So you guys can see the problems that are going on. You guys are great at writing the list, putting things in order, and prioritizing things to make sure that the doers are doing the things that they're supposed to do. And there was another group of people, and that third group of people, those were the people that were the accountability people. Those were the people that made sure that the people who were the doers were following the list and making sure that the list was getting done in an appropriate manner. And then there was a fourth one. Shit, I forget what it was, but that's not the important thing. The important thing is, at the end of it, everyone was in their 4 separate groups, and there were only 2 people left at the table, right? And it was Tim Metcalf and Tom Metcalf. And in their head, they're thinking, yes, we are the like most important people. So of course we don't fit into any of those 4 groups. We are the best, right? We are the leaders. Of course, it's only us. But the person who was leading the conference said something right afterwards. And they said, these 2 people right here, and Tim and Tom puffed up their chests a little bit and were very proud and waiting for the accolades to get dumped on them. And he said, are the most useless people in this whole damn room. And they were like, what are you talking about? And he said, without these 4 other groups, it doesn't matter how much vision they have, how much pride they have, how much they know how to run their businesses. It doesn't mean shit if these other people around them can't lift them up to let them help follow their tasks. And I would say the same thing happens with a lot of us as dreamers. We get so focused on that, and we want to be hands-on with every single little thing that eventually we get so caught up in the day-to-day that we never get to go past the first block of our vision. So the most important thing I think for having a good vision is getting the right team around you and to support you and to lift you up, because there is nothing you can do on this planet on your own, except for like maybe wipe your butt. Like you can totally do that on your own. No team needed. So my push is always surround yourself with your community, surround yourself with people that love you and care about you, and surround yourself with people who share your vision of what you want to do. It doesn't matter how good they are if they don't believe in your vision. So sorry if that was a long answer, but
that's great. I think there's one other question I want to address in here, and then maybe we'll just save a minute for my closing, or if folks need to go, that's totally fine. Monica asked, like, what can we do to contribute to your goal to open the new location? And I kind of want to piggyback on that, because I do want to acknowledge not everybody in this call or who attend our meetings are local to Madison. And so if you also, so what can we do to help you with your vision? And maybe another part to that question is people in their own communities. What's maybe some small steps or things that they can take, some realistic goals, that they're able to do.
Great, and I'll try to be brief, although I suck at that. But my two things I would say is, one, in order to help us. So we are at about, as I said earlier, we're at about 3.4 million of our $10 million raise. So we have quite a bit to go. Where we really need help right now is in the fundraising part. Once we're open and up and running, we'll be great. And one thing I didn't even talk about in this is that when Little John's is up and running, we will be 100% cash self-sustainable. We never need to go back to the community and ask for funds anymore. We'll be able to provide our own funding for our own growth and our own sustainability. And to me, that's something super important. If you're a traditional nonprofit and you want to do $250,000 worth of new programming, guess what? It's going to cost you $250,000 a year of continuous going and asking for money and that kind of thing. For us, it's one and done. Once we're up and running, we never need to ask again. So any help anyone can be with, like, helping to connect us to people who want to be a part of something different to really make a big change and an impact, where it's a one-time ask and we never have to go again, would be incredible. Or just like getting involved with getting the word out. I always think it's like, people think like, well, I don't know anyone who has money that could help, but it's kind of like those, 7 steps of Kevin Bacon. Yeah, you may not, but there definitely might be your friend who knows a friend who knows a friend. And it's really just like with marketing, they say it takes 10 touches for you to be able to have an impact from a brand. It's the same kind of thing when it comes to an idea like Little John's. Someone might see an article in a newspaper and then hear about it from one friend, and then hear about it from a third friend, and then a fourth friend. And then they see another article, and now all of a sudden they're like, oh, I've heard about that like 6 or 7 times. Maybe I should get a meeting with Chef Dave. That's really what it takes. A lot of it is networking. And for us, we are growing so fast. So a little bit, again, about where we're going. We, a year ago, had one employee. Just one paid employee. And today we have over 47 employees. All of them make starting wage of $20 an hour plus full benefits. We take really good care of our people, and we're really trying to make an impact in helping people. But the current lease that we have, where we're temporarily doing our production out of, we lose that in April next year, and us trying to transplant to another secondary home where we put probably $40,000 into our current location just to be able to do the meals that we are. Every time that we have to move, every time we have to make another investment, that's longer before we can get our big facility up and running. And then the final part of why the fundraising right now is so important is lead times on equipment are ridiculous right now. Some pieces of equipment are almost a year out right now. So any way people can make introductions, can come do tours, anything along that line would be, I can't even tell you how grateful we would be. Our whole team, as I said, I'm not taking any salary, you guys, so I'm doing this all pro bono. I just want to get people fed. I want to get our kids real food. I want to get our people experiencing homelessness to be treated with love and share that love through food. We have chefs cooking food. Like, this is what I'm passionate about. And I know so many people are passionate about, and I would just push that, like I said earlier, there's that like knowing that you care about a project. And I think today in social media, it's so easy to hit that like button or that love button or share an article, and we feel like we've made a change or an impact. But like, what we really need right now, not just Little John's, but as a community, is for people to I know it's scary sometimes, but leave our house and go boots on the ground and help out a lot of these organizations that are trying to make a change and do good. And whether you can do that through funding or whether you can do that through volunteering, and volunteering, you don't even have to leave your house. There are lots of places that need help with social media, that need help with all sorts of things. That would be my biggest thing for you, Nick, on the second part of that question is like, the biggest thing people can do to help is do, and not just think that you do. And I don't mean that to be insulting, but it's very easy to feel like you make an impact without making much of an impact.
Yeah, no, and that sounds like, maybe that takes a little introspection too, and some reflection. And, I invite everybody to take the time to do that also. So Dave, I want to thank you so much. I think we're all just blown away by the impact you've been able to have, just what feels like one person. I know you have an amazing team. I know you have an amazing staff, and that wouldn't be possible without that support. So I want to thank everybody else too that tuned in today and for joining us. We look forward to continuing to learn, grow, and dream together. Don't forget to follow us if you'd like to on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and LinkedIn to be sure you're in the know on upcoming events from DreamBank, including our signature program experiences. But on behalf of American Family Insurance and DreamBank, we look forward to hosting you again soon and invite you to keep dreaming fearlessly. So thank you for being an awesome example of that, Chef Dave. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.